We have all heard the exact same productivity advice. Put your phone in another room, grit your teeth, and push through the pain. If you want to achieve difficult things, you have to suffer for them. It creates a harsh little trap in our heads. We look at the people grinding away at 5 a.m. and decide there are only two types of humans: the relentless achievers and the lazy failures. And the moment we fall short of a goal, we start collecting those labels. We call ourselves we lack willpower, we're unmotivated, we're easily distracted, we don't want it badly enough. These moments of perceived laziness often signal a state of energy depletion. When our mental resources are spent just maintaining our daily lives, the friction of a difficult task becomes a barrier we no longer have the fuel to overcome. Procrastination is an emotional regulation problem. It is the act of prioritizing short-term mood repair over long-term objectives. You're not running from the physical mechanics of the work itself. You are running from the uncomfortable emotions that the work forces you to feel, the awkwardness of not knowing what you're doing, and the heavy pressure of your own perfectionism. We constantly weigh the intense friction of those negative emotions against the easiest possible escapes. When the discomfort gets too heavy, the brain scrambles for a quick fix to soothe the anxiety. That is exactly where doom scrolling comes in. Slight in a feed offers zero friction and a massive, continuous hit of cheap dopamine to temporarily numb the stress. An hours-long spiral on your phone operates as an unconscious, desperate attempt to regulate your own nervous system. Think about a goal that feels incredibly difficult right now. The task itself is rarely inherently hard. It is usually just deeply unfamiliar to your current routine. Navigating anything unfamiliar requires massive amounts of mental bandwidth. It forces your brain to stay highly alert, process new information, and figure out completely new patterns. Energy we often drain away on external drama and digital noise. The moment you try to reclaim that bandwidth and start something new, your ego gets in the way. We are terrified of the messy, clueless, embarrassing stage of being a beginner. We want the finished result, but we hate the awkwardness of the learning curve. By refusing to start to avoid looking like a beginner, we guarantee that we remain in the beginner stage forever. Overcoming that paralyzing avoidance means accepting a simple mechanical fact. Feeling awkward is the required emotional toll for learning, not a red flag telling you to quit. How do you tell the difference between emotional avoidance and a goal that is actually just a bad fit for your life? You can test this physically by checking if the goal makes you feel grounded or braced. If you commit to waking up an hour earlier to sit in heavy traffic for a daily gym class, your nervous system will feel constantly tense and braced. That is a strict physical boundary, not a lack of discipline. To visualize this limit, we can look at the 4 burners theory. Imagine your energy is divided across a stovetop with 4 distinct burners: family, friends, health, and work. The reality of your bandwidth is entirely mechanical. If you want to turn one burner up to maximum heat to chase a highly demanding goal, you have to manually turn another one down. You cannot run everything on full blast at the same time. Sometimes we realize we've kept a burner running on high for a goal we don't even want anymore. We stay with it because of the sunk cost fallacy, the heavy guilt of abandoning something after pouring hundreds of hours into it. Walking away from a misaligned goal is the strategic and necessary reallocation of your limited energy. If you want to consistently show up for high-friction goals, relying on suffering will eventually burn you out. You have to actively engineer enjoyment into the process. Setting a goal to read a dense 800-page book usually satisfies the ego. It sounds impressive to tell your friends about it. An enjoyment-driven system ignores the optics entirely and focuses on building momentum. You lower the barrier to entry. You pick shorter books. You read easy, punchy chapters. You give your brain a quick, satisfying dopamine hit every single time you finish a small section. Those small, low-friction wins bypass the ego. They start to build actual evidence in your mind that you are a reader, rather than someone forcing themselves to check off a massive box. Building true consistency relies on reducing friction. You lower the barrier enough so you can actually enjoy showing up. To see where this approach ultimately leads, try the grandmother test. Imagine yourself decades from now, at the end of your life, looking back at how you pursued your goals. In the first version of this life, you relied entirely on strict discipline. You ground your teeth and suffered through every single achievement to prove a point to the people around you. Looking back, the dominant feeling is exhaustion and disappointment. In the second version, you prioritized your emotional energy. You engineered small pockets of enjoyment into the friction of your hardest goals. From that vantage point, you arrive at a profound sense of inner peace. The objective here is to unaddict ourselves from the frictionless, cheap escapes that drain our days, and consciously re-addict ourselves to the difficult, rewarding things that actually build our identity. When you replace the blunt force of suffering with the mechanics of emotional regulation, doing hard things stops feeling like a grueling race. It becomes the way you live a fulfilling life.